Hey, and welcome to episode number
two
of the Kingdom Chat. We are successful because we've made it this far.
Absolutely. The first one must have been good because we're doing a second.
Yeah, we haven't been dumped from the network
Don't
yet.
Take notice of the fact we're in exactly the same clothes as week one.
I meant to change my hat after the first one, but I forgot. Oh, well, we're here now. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into this.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about what is the kingdom and that example of, well, we talked about how the kingdom is a place and a culture, and we're in that space at the moment where the place, the fulfillment eternally will be in heaven one day, but we are still living out the kingdom culture here today. So we might not yet be in the place of the kingdom, but we are living out the culture of the kingdom here where we are here today. And we talked about that example of me being an Australian going to America, that you go overseas and people say you're not from around here because you're carrying a different culture. You know, I had a different accent, and as I said last week, I had literally waiters lining up at our table asking me to say g'day, mate. I should have charged them for it, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Missed an opportunity.
Totally. Oh, well, next time. But I wanted to further that today and talk about the clash between the kingdom culture in us and the culture around us. Because we use that example of going to America, and that's all fine. You know, it's sort of a bit of fun. Everyone can laugh at, oh, you've got a different accent. But really, our cultures are not that different. There are elements where they're different, but most of what we experienced was not like totally butting heads. Do you know what I mean? We could operate there, okay.
Yeah.
But there would be other places in the world that I would go that the culture of how I live and who I am would butt heads with it seriously. Like, it would become a lot more significant than just a different accent. Yeah. You know, there would be places where I go that how I treat my wife would become problematic. Yeah. That sounds maybe like I don't treat you well. How they view women would be very different to how we do in a Western culture. Yeah. You know, the fact that I'm a Christian, I have a Christian faith, or things like that, they would become real issues. What I eat, what we wear, they could be real issues. There's a sense of like culture clash. It's not just a bit of a, oh, that's a bit funny, you're not from around here. We're actually, you could step into a culture where it's actually like going the other way, and to live the way that, according to your culture, you'd have to really swim upstream. Going against it. When we talk about living out kingdom culture in our world here and now, that's actually probably a better representation of it than just an accent.
That's right.
Because it's important for us to recognize living here on earth, this is a world that's broken by sin, broken by the curse. It's not a neutral environment. No. For us to live out kingdom values, we're not living in a world that is just neutral environment that we can say, oh, that's a little bit different. Oh, you're going to do something a bit nice, a bit different. We actually have to go swim upstream against the culture and the flow of the world and its ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're living in an environment where the world is actually, it's broken by sin. If we look back at, you know, the original creation, back in Genesis, when God created the heavens and the earth and he made Eden, which was this perfect reflection, representation of his kingdom. You know, it was the place, it was the culture where his kingdom was perfectly established. And you actually read I'm going to read this verse to you in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. God created Eden, he created man and woman to fill it, and he said, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every creature that moves on the ground. So he said, be blessed, multiply. Now take this Eden, take this pocket of my kingdom and spread it all through the earth. But the way the story goes, man sinned, the curse came in, and what happened in that moment is man actually gave over the authority for the earth to the enemy, and the earth entered into the a different kingdom, effectively. You know, I've heard a message before which has really helped my understanding of this concept called A Tale of Two Kingdoms. We're not just living out kingdom values in a neutral environment. No. We're living in a world which is now broken and it's under the oppression of another kingdom. You know, it's under the kingdom of sin, under the curse, where there's brokenness and death and sin and sickness and poverty and all these different elements, which are elements of the kingdom that the world's living in. So in that environment, we're saying, no, we're not going to live according to that way. We're going to live under a different kingdom. We're going to live out the values of a different kingdom. So that's the sense of how we're living out the kingdom, and it's this culture clash.
Yeah.
And so that's important for us to recognize, because the key thing for us is to recognize, as kingdom people, if we're going to live out these kingdom values, we're actually going to have to swim upstream.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen automatically. If we ever switch into neutral, we're going to trend the other way.
Yeah.
we think of being in a stream. You're going to flow with the current, flow with the tide, but we have to determinedly. Is that a word? Determinedly.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
We have to be determined.
Yeah, we have to be determined.
and passionately swim upstream.
That's right.
Yeah, against that flow.
Yeah, we have to know what our values are according to the kingdom of heaven. We have to know what it is that what happens in God's kingdom, so that we know we're not just getting swept up in the world's kingdom, but actually saying, okay, I'm choosing to live out these things because I know that's the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah, exactly. It means we have to be deliberate.
Very deliberate.
Yeah, we have to do stuff on purpose. Before we close this one, I want to quickly read to you this passage from John 17. So this is John 17, verse 11 to 16. John 17 is an amazing passage. It's called the High Priestly Prayer. It's where Jesus prays for his followers right before he goes to the cross. It's like this really significant moment. He's had his earthly ministry. He's about to step into the place. So he's saying, I've been here on earth with them. I've initiated my kingdom. I've initiated the values and the culture. I'm about to leave here and step into the place of heaven. But now I'm leaving them to perpetuate the culture of heaven here in this place, in the world. So just have a listen to these words through that context. He says, I am no longer in the world, so that place, but they are in the world. So we're the ones now in this place here. And he says, I am coming to you, Holy Father. So he's saying, I'm coming up to you, God, to that other place, the place of heaven. Now he says, you keep them safe in your name that you've given me, so that they may be one, just as we are one. Let me jump ahead just for the sake of time to verse 14. He says, I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, because they do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world.
Yeah.
Notice he didn't say, I've given them your word, and so they're going to stand strong on that in the world, or they're going to hold to that. He says the world has hated them.
Yeah.
Not only the world hasn't understood them, the world didn't know it, the world has hated them. He says, I've given them something. I've put something in them, which means that now they're at odds with the world.
Yeah.
They're at loggerheads with it. And he says, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but that you keep them safe from the evil one. They don't belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world. That's a great picture, I think, of exactly what we're talking about. Jesus is saying, I'm leaving them in the world, and what they're carrying, what they're taking, is against the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be at loggerheads with it.
Yeah.
So that means for us to do that, to live that out well, we have to be really deliberate.
Yeah.
You can't just flow with the current.
No, you can't just coast. You can't just, say, come what may,
Yeah.
that sort of attitude.
Whatever will be.
Yeah. No, you have to make deliberate choices.
Yeah, exactly. So closing this one out, what are a couple of things, Kyra, that you reckon, we didn't prepare this, but what could we do in order to prepare ourselves to live this out in a if there's this culture clash, what can we do to live out this culture in this world?
Yeah, well, I think first, like you said, we have to be aware and know we're going to come against opposition. We can't, that's not, if we're saying we're a Christian and we're going to live out the kingdom of heaven here on earth, we're going to come against opposition. And so we can't shy away from that. We can't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared for that.
And can I say that opposition, that doesn't just mean people saying, oh, you're a Christian, I disagree with your values or whatever.
No.
That means to live out the values of the kingdom of heaven, you're going to face just opposition in general culture.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be constantly encouraged to think a certain way, to do things a certain way, to even stay stuck in things attitudes and behaviours and things that, that's normal, that's fine. But actually say, no, that's not normal and that's not fine for someone in the kingdom of heaven to live that way. So,
yeah, that's good.
there's going to be opposition about how you live about how you want to, raise your family. When we're talking to kingdom families, there's going to be opposition about how you raise your family.
Yeah. And we're going to explore that more in
Absolutely.
these chats for who knows how long.
Exactly. And so I think the other thing that's really important, know you're going to have opposition, but also know the word.
Yeah.
Know what does the kingdom of heaven look like, and then therefore what am I supposed to look like? What should my family look like? When we're talking about swimming upstream, what are some of those things that are going to represent and going to mark the fact that I'm in a different kingdom?
You got to be strongly rooted in your culture and values for it to hold true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, you'll just get swept up.
Yeah,
in the culture of this kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world.
Good. Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's leave that there. So I encourage you, think about that. Go through the discussion questions and chat with your family, with your community group. How can we be really deliberate and stand firm? What are the values that we're holding to? As a family, what are our values? That's such an important thing.
Yeah. Have you ever asked yourself, what are my values?
Yeah.
And what are my family values?
There's a little nugget for you to think about. That's something I remember going through that process about 10 years ago, saying, what are my values? And actually I came up with 3 core values I wanted my life to be known by. Can you define that for your family?
Yeah.
Can you define that for your life? If not, pray about it and think about it. What are your values?
Absolutely. Great question.
There we go. Drop the mic.
Yeah.
Come ponder that one.
See you later.
Bless you guys. Hope that's helpful, and we'll chat more next week.